You're ready. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, I am Erin Glynn. I teach at Longwood Elementary School in Naperville, Illinois. I teach second grade, and we were working on a math lesson that was focused on problem solving.
Good. Not hard, right?
Harder than you'd think.
I know. We'll shake it off together. We'll do deep breaths. Okay, so I'll start you out, and at any time, if you want to just me to pause, just tell me. First question. We want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit in the year. First question now. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge? What was taught before this lesson and what will come after it?
Okay, so problem solving is something that we work on throughout the year, and it gradually gets more difficult as the year goes on. We begin the year by working on some of the skills that they will need to solve the problems, the addition, the place value, the number sense, so that then they can use those skills and strategies to be able to solve the word problems. And then we escalate the word problems as the year continues.
Okay, good. Discuss the sequence of the lessons that surround this one lesson.
So we started out learning how to pull out the important information from the word problems, finding what is given, and then being able to organize it so that the students could analyze it and decide what information they had to solve for. And then we also really focused on being able to decide strategies that could potentially help us. And also, it took a lot of time just to get comfortable in the environment of being able to share your ideas, even if you made a mistake, that we're able to learn from those mistakes and decide if that was a strategy that was effective.
Talk about the standards or cluster targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard or cluster?
Just wanted to grab
You
my
want me
thing.
to take a pause?
I just wanted to pull the one paper back
Sure.
up.
You want me to ask again?
Sure.
Okay, so talk about the standards or cluster targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard or cluster?
So the standard that we were teaching today was 2OA1, which covers a broad range of the different types of problems that students need to be able to solve. So the standard very clearly states that the students should be able to do putting together, taking apart, comparing word problems, and also moving the unknown, that variable, around so that the students really have to use their critical thinking skills to be able to say what they're trying to solve for and the strategies that would most efficiently help them figure it out.
Okay. Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified, and how did you plan for this?
Let me stop for just a second.
Yeah.
I have all this stuff,
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified, and how did you plan for this?
For core action 1, the lesson is really focused on the grade level standards, and by solving word problems, the students are naturally going to use the skills that they have learned from previous standards and apply them in order to solve the problems. In core action 2, we are focused on giving the students time to work and explore and solve the problems. And so in this lesson, the students got a chance to work together at their table and then determine what group would best meet their needs to continue with the work. So they got to decide if a small group with the teacher would be the most effective for them, or if they were able to work with a partner and rely on each other to go deeper and analyze those problems as a group. I think I'm going to be done there.
Anything else on that one? Or do you feel good about that?
In core action 3, we really have, as I said, focused on getting an environment in the classroom where the students feel comfortable sharing their thinking, what they did, why they did it, and understanding that even if they didn't come to the correct solution, that it's possible to learn from those mistakes, and we can politely and respectfully discuss how we could improve for future work.
Okay. Moving on to shifts. We are interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your classroom. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
Well, it's very obvious as you look through the Common Core standards that there's a big difference in the rigor that's required in what we're doing today than we were in the past. In the past, a lot of the word problems that we would teach, we would find the important information, and then the students would eventually notice the pattern, and they would be able to plug those numbers into a word problem, and sometimes they didn't need to have that critical thinking skills because they could just plug it in and then get to the answer. So that rigor of being able to change what types of problems they're solving, where the variable is, they really need to analyze what information they are given and figure out what the information is missing so that they can use the different strategies. There's not one strategy that's going to work for every single problem. So it's definitely a big shift in the amount of rigor that's expected for the students.
How did you teach the content of this lesson prior to the CCSS? What's the same and what's different?
Again, we focus on mixing up the problems now with the Common Core so that the students cannot find a pattern and just, let's pause for a second.
All right, and go ahead.
In the past, the students would focus on finding keywords in the problem to tell them what type of math that they were going to do, whether it was going to be an addition problem or a subtraction problem. And then they would be able to plug in those numbers into the number sentence and get to the answer. So the focus was really on getting to the answer. And now with the Common Core and that shift, by changing the types of problems that the students are working on, and there's not a consistent pattern, the keywords don't always give away what you're going to do. The students really are required to read through the problem, think big picture about what is happening, and then decide from there what information they need to solve for it and find a strategy that will be efficient in solving it. So now the focus is more on the process and being able to explain your thinking in problem solving rather than just, I got the right answer.
Okay. Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. First question, how did the students handle this lesson? Did they understand the mathematics of the lesson, and how do you know?
What was the first part of the question?
So first part is, how did the students handle this lesson? Did they understand the mathematics?
And how do you know? The students did very well on this lesson, and you can see the growth over time because this is a standard that we work on throughout the year, that they're starting, you can see that the students are more comfortable sharing their strategies, taking that risk and being able to try something and not worry so much if they get a wrong answer, but they're able to explain their thinking and see where it leads them. I think the students did get the mathematics of the lesson because they have so many options of what strategy is available to them. So some students who are still at the beginning stages of understanding place value and addition and subtraction can rely on the number charts and the base 10 blocks, and they can use those concrete manipulatives to help them solve the problem. And students who are beginning to put those concepts and understand them more globally are able to use things like the expanded form to be able to understand, and they don't need so much those concrete manipulatives. They might draw a picture that represents them, or some of them are even moving into just using the numbers themselves. But by allowing the students the options of how they're going to solve the problem, makes it accessible for everybody.
Good, you're doing good. Let's see. Okay, next question. Explain how you differentiated in this lesson. Did all students have the opportunity to work on grade level content?
Okay, so everyone was working on the same second grade word problems in this lesson, and it was differentiated again by using the different tools. Depending on what the students' needs are, they were pulling different tools out of their tool bags, or they were drawing different types of pictures. Some students that are still in the basic understanding are still drawing pictures that are one-to-one correspondence and counting up, whereas some of the students that are starting to put things together are able to make the bigger leaps into counting by tens to be more efficient, or using the number sentences more than a visual picture. So the students also got to decide on the grouping that was going to be the most helpful for them to continue to grow. So students who are still struggling and they understand that they still need that guidance met with me up front, while other students who feel that they are able to work on the problems on their own could do that, and they were paired up with a student that really feels secure, so that if they did have a question or they ran into some trouble, that there was someone there that was able to help them.
Which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson? And what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to look at core action.
So we're rolling, and then which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson, and what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Okay, so for core action 3, a lot of the emphasis is on explaining your thinking and creating an environment where the students feel comfortable that they can take the risks and explain what they did, even if it's different than what their peers chose to do. So we really work on just having that respect for one another, for understanding that people do things different ways, and the students got excited when they started to see that those different ways, those different strategies could still put them in the same place at the end with the solution. And so first it took time to create that environment where the students felt that they were comfortable and respected enough where they could take those risks. And now we can focus more on explaining the thinking and using our skills and applying that mathematical talk that they can use to justify how they solved the problem.
Was there something that delighted you or surprised you with the students' work today?
We just recently were learning expanded form. That's a fairly new skill for the students. And so seeing that some of the students are able to take that expanded form skill and use it to apply in the problem-solving process, where if they pull apart the numbers, they can easily see which number they need to plug in to get them when that variable's in the middle as opposed to the end. As they turned the number into expanded form, they were able to figure out what those missing pieces were. And so to see that a skill that was so newly taught to them was already in their bank of tools for solving problems is exciting.
Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrated in this lesson and what you would improve upon. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked well and what might you do differently?
I think what works well is allowing the students to have that variety of tools at their disposal so that they can choose the strategies that will be the most helpful to them. Also giving the students a chance to explain their thinking in different groupings, in front of the whole class, on the Elmo, or at their table, or with their partner. They're able to explain their thinking so that they're learning and constantly building to the strategies that they have in their toolbox that prepare them. I think timing is always something that can be improved upon. solving these problems takes time. So it is an adjustment to understand that they may only solve 2 or 3 problems in the math session, but that they're going deeper within those problems and really analyzing and using their critical thinking skills to be able to solve them. But I think as teachers, we always are wishing we had a few extra minutes to add a little bit more into it.
Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors or reactions?
Is it okay to say no?
Yeah? Oh, totally. I mean, again, it's this lesson. Was there any student that you walked by that surprised you, or anyone that stood up today that they were going over their problems that used to be shy, or, and it's just anything?
There were quite a few students raising their hands, wanting to share their ideas, more so than I saw at the beginning when problem solving was still a new skill for us, because they were still kind of adjusting to what it all meant and feeling comfortable in the environment. So it was good to see that they were willing to share their work. And it's also surprising, some of the students that I've noticed have been struggling with being able to solve the problems, that they're using some of the more difficult strategies. One student chose to use an open number line, and I made sure to stop and have him explain to me how he used it and if it worked. And even though he hopped single hops and was counting up by ones, the concept of the open number line to solve a problem, he understood that, and he was able to explain it to me. So that was exciting, that even though I know he struggles with number sense in general, that he was able to solve the problem in the end because he was able to use his skills along at the level that he's ready for.
Great, you're done. That wasn't so bad.